This is the day that the F becomes the M and the M becomes the F. The two trains swapping routes. The M will come into Manhattan along 63rd Street, and the F will move to the 53rd Street tunnel. So the M now makes the stops at Queensbridge 21st, at Roosevelt Island, and at 63rd and Lex. The F train is the one that will stop at Queens Plaza, Court Square, and 53rd Street. The goal is to reduce the delays that come on the Queens side when the trains all have to cross paths. Here with us to talk about the train swap, among other things, is MTA Chair Janno Lieber. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Good to be with you, Pat.
I liken this to drivers at a four-way stop when somebody's got to wait for somebody else to go and then they can go in the other direction. Obviously, it's more organized than that with your signaling systems, but there's a lot going on underground around Queens Plaza.
No, you're doing a better job than I could in explaining this. Here's the bottom line: is we have a pretty old train system. At some point, they started having the F train when the 63rd Street tunnel opened, having it cross over all the other lines at Queens Plaza, and the result is, and then they have the M train going the other direction. The result is that trains it limits the throughput, it limits the capacity, and it creates delays. It's time to put an end to that. And the other benefit is for folks who are Roosevelt Island and 23rd Street, Eli, which is where the Queensbridge houses are, big NYC development, they will be getting trains that aren't full when they pull into the station. And when you're in Roosevelt Island, sometimes you got to wait for an F train to pass because they're so full. Now they'll be getting M trains with a lot more room. Hopefully they get a seat.
So some people, if they have to get to one of the stops that is swapped, will have to make an extra transfer. But for others, it'll be the opposite, that they'll get
listen, the bottom line is, yes, there's some people whose commutes will be changed a little bit. But the bottom line is, if we improve the throughput and the service and eliminate delays on the Queens Boulevard line, which carries over 1 million people every day, that's good for everybody. That's good for the system. That's why we're doing it.
Look, I think this is something that every institution deals with, right? There is something that historically was done for one reason, and you have to decide, is the benefit from making the change in excess of the pain in making the change? Is this something that's been sitting out there for a long time?
Yeah, of course. People have been talking about it. We got a great operations planning team at New York City Transit. They've been looking at this for a while. Like a lot of things in, frankly, the era of this MTA, we are ready to do stuff that's a little hard. Because I think that we have shown with the investments that we're making, with the improvements of ridership. Last week we had 2 days in a row with record ridership. Service has improved. It ain't perfect, especially this morning, but crime is way down. We have a lot of things that we're getting accomplished. I think we're getting rider confidence back. Riders are telling us they are 14 percentage points more likely to say, I feel safe in the subway system. So we're doing a lot of stuff, including congestion pricing, that other versions of the MTA said it's too hard, it's too controversial.
Okay, I got one more question on the F and the M swap.
Sure.
Which is at 9:30 at night, just when you've gotten used to it in the daytime, now you're saying that now the F is back to the other route at night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not, New Yorkers know that there are some trains that run only during the day, from the morning rush through the evening rush, and then they're not available in the overnight because we're doing work, because we need to cover the same roughly the same territory with a different mix of of service. And I take the B train home from Manhattan to Brooklyn all the time, and that goes out at 9 o'clock. My friends know if I'm at dinner at their house in Manhattan, I may run out at 9:15 to get the last B train. New Yorkers know this stuff, and I think that we're going to get people adjusted well.
Any other route switcheroos that you're contemplating?
Yeah, listen, we're always looking at service. What we love is adding more service, and I'm going to say the obvious thing, which is people ask me, what do you think of the new mayor-elect? And I say, you know what? I like any politician, any elected official who says, I like transit, I want more transit, I want to support transit. That's how we have gotten New Yorkers, rebuilt the city since the pandemic, is getting people to come back to work, and that involved more service. Governor Hochul supported that. The rest of the country, transit is raising fares dramatically and cutting service because they're in financial crisis. In New York, We're increasing service, and we've kept the fare increases low, 2% a year. We love that.
Zoran Mamdani has made it very clear that he wants to see free bus fares. You and others have suggested that another possibility for helping out people who can't afford would be an expansion of the Fair Fares program. Have you seen any indication since Mamdani was elected that people are just helping themselves to bus rides because the mayor said the buses are free?
I honestly no. Listen, we've made a lot of progress on fare evasion on the subways. 35% down in the last about year and a quarter since we really started doing all the things we're doing, both the physical turnstile, the gates, gate guards, a ton of other stuff. The buses are still a problem. And that's why last week I talked a little more about where we're headed, where we're going to have fare inspectors with handheld devices that can check fares on everybody on a bus. I haven't seen the phenomenon of people doing more fare evasion on buses yet, but it's pretty high, and we have to deal with it. Just for New York City morale purposes, not just a money issue, it's a fairness issue.
The idea with the bus enforcement is that once you phase out the Metro card and once you phase out cash payments, everybody on a bus, regardless of where it is along the route, should have a card that they can retap to prove that they have a valid
and
fare.
they do this all over the rest of the world. This is not a novelty. If you're in Paris, they'll come up to you and say, "Show me your ticket. Show me your card," and we're gonna.
I had that happen once when I bought the wrong ticket, and they're
and they, they offer you the opportunity to pay the fine right on the spot.
Or you right, and you can leave.
Right.
Yeah.
So. We think that's a system that we'd like to implement, but it's obviously after we have the final switch away from coin on bus, which is the one thing that the validators can't deal with.
And the Metro card sales end on the 31st of December.
Yeah.
But you'll still be able to use.
Yeah, you're going to be able to use them at least for the first 6 months. We haven't set the final date. We'll see how it unfolds. But in the meantime, everybody who has a Metro card or a stack of them in their sock drawer ought to go to one of our 30 customer service centers and trade them in for value on whatever Omni device you're using.
I think I recognized you or the back of your head walking through one of those turnstiles, the new fare gates last week. You were at the photo op that we had?
I don't know, but you're right. What you're talking about is super important, which is that we are starting to test out. There are 4 companies that are competing for the contract to install new turnstiles in our system. They won't be turnstiles; they'll be modern fare gates that have do much more to prevent people from going over or under or sideways or whatever.
What are you looking for there? Just reliability and maintenance.
Basic stuff. The basic stuff that they're tougher to penetrate, they're easier to maintain, and that they don't break down. And there's a lot of, we're going to see the 4 different companies they're on all going to get installations done this year, but we're going to get a lot of them done this year and in the first quarter of next year. And then we're going to have some time to see which ones work best.
These are all actively in service in other transit systems elsewhere in the world?
I'm pretty sure. At least 3 of them, 3 out of the 4 have installations elsewhere in the world.
January 4th is the day for fare and toll increases. We go from $2.90 to $3 for the base fare on subways and buses, up 25 cents on the express buses. If you don't have Easy Pass, you're talking $12 each way for the major bridges and tunnels. There's some of the highlights on the screen there. As always, Mr. Lieber, what are you doing with the money?
Yeah, what we do with the money is run service. So 70% of our operating budget is paying people wages and benefits and pensions. And having enough people to run extra service is what we are doing. Now, MTA budget since COVID has actually in real terms gone down in large part because we have cut $500 million a year out of our budget just by squeezing things that didn't need to be as expensive as they are. We've gotten rid of software licenses that people aren't using. We've taken away a lot of cell phones that people weren't using. We've looked at the data to adjust our maintenance schedules so that we weren't, spending a lot of time on stuff that didn't have benefit. We've actually saved $500 million a year. We're going to save even another $250 a year this is a much more efficient operation than it used to be.
Do you think you have been able to put enough into new service to make up for the inconvenience of congestion pricing? Because that was the promise, right?
Yeah,
we're going to get people off the subway or off the roads, put them on the subways and buses, and they'll get better service.
You know, honestly, I always remind people there are only 140,000 people. We carry what 4.5+ million people a day on the subway, 6.5 million people on all of our transit in New York. There are only 140,000 people who are commuting daily in automobiles to the central business district. It has a huge impact on traffic. And since congestion pricing, there are fewer of them. So yeah, we have more than enough room for everybody, and service has improved. And most important, we're making the investments that in the long run is going to make this a more modern and reliable system.
But the dream for the transit rider, whether you're a new transit rider, so you got pulled out of your car, or whether you're a veteran, is that you're not waiting more than 3 or 4 minutes for a train.
Yeah, well, that's not a dream. That happens every morning on the train that you ride, the
yeah,
L train.
I am very blessed that I'm on the L train.
The L train and the 7 train and on the Queens Boulevard line. And it's not a coincidence. Those are the lines that have the modern signals. And that allows you to run more trains safely closer together because the technology tells you exactly how close trains are and how fast they're going and can control the speed. The old system of signaling, you basically have a general idea where the trains are, but not more than that. And so you have to space them much further apart. That's why we're investing so much in modern signals. Better service, more reliable service.
Thanks for coming in this morning.
You bet.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest news and weather updates every 10 minutes and more. We'll see you then.